19 years ago yesterday, I lost my husband, Ron, and became a widow. And I lived through a really difficult time, but managed to find love and happiness again. And tonight I'd like to share the story of this journey with you. During my first week of law school, I attended a welcome to law school party, but I was so overwhelmed by the amount of reading I had to do and decided to leave early. So I walked over to a friend who was going to walk home with me and looked up, and that is how I met Ron. When we shook hands, it was as if the rest of the world disappeared. On that night at Avenue C, I met my soulmate. I was 21 years old and not the person who ever thought of getting married. We were married 2 years later. Ron was an attorney who worked hard but did not take life for granted. His mantra was always seize the day and to toast life. Perhaps because we were so young, our love was tangible to those around us, and sometimes it felt like we were two souls who already knew each other but were giddy at the fact that we were reunited on earth again. Ron's family was his foundation. And so it happened that we were to attend a family fall cleanup one October weekend in Connecticut. And we decided to drive down early to spend quiet time with his parents before the rest of the family arrived. And the following morning, Ron woke up, took our yellow lab Winslow out for a walk in the woods where he grew up, and he never came back. When I came upon the police cruiser that held my dog in the back seat and saw the look on her face, I knew he was gone. We had been married for 5 years, and suddenly he was gone forever. A stranger with a gun shot him and left him to bleed to death in the woods. One man's thoughtless actions that morning made my world crumble and brought me to my knees. It was tragic. I couldn't eat, sleep, or talk for weeks. The pain was unbearable. Yet when it finally came time for Ron's memorial service, I gave the eulogy and read the famous poem, Stop the Clocks by W.H. Auden. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week, my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought our love would last forever, but I was wrong. Yet no amount of tears would ever bring Ron back. No amount of regrets and what-ifs would ever change the course of events. So my journey was to find a way to move on and start over. I had to. I knew Ron would never forgive me if I didn't. I recalled that when his favorite aunt died, he refused to give a eulogy at her funeral because he didn't respect her. He didn't respect her because she never moved on after her husband died. So I had my marching orders. At some point after my tears stopped, I sold my house and bought a new one. I discarded all of my dreams of being a suburban soccer mom life and changed jobs, joined the dot-com boom, and was swept away by the energy of living in a new place and having a new career. This manic energy that overcame me was really out of a need to stop being so sad and out of a deep desire for things to be normal again. But there was a hollowness in me despite this energy. And one day, I decided to try sailing again. The first time was with Ron, and I received the nickname Barney, short for barnacle, because of how I clung to the sailboat out of a fear of falling into Boston Harbor. This time was remarkably different. I not only didn't care if I fell into the water, if I did, who cares, I thought. It was so different because the fear was replaced by an exhilaration of being able to harness the wind and propel myself past the ferries, the tankers and the other boats in Boston Harbor into the outer harbor and the islands where it was quieter and calmer. And it was there that I started to find peace and feel my strength return. But I was still restless and empty. And one day at a yoga class, I read a quote by the author Carolyn Myss. "The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind." Yes, it was true. My mind was not in the present. It was longing for the past and living in fear of the future. And I wanted to get out of the present as fast as possible. Yet the most powerful concept I learned is you cannot move forward unless you can accept the good in whatever tragedy you experience. Initially, it seemed like a crazy thought. How could anything good have come from Ron's death? He was so young and we were so in love. But in my heart, I knew it was true. I clearly recall the moment the epiphany occurred. I was driving down the Mass Pike and a sunbeam hit me through my sunroof, and I was overwhelmed by a thought. And that thought was that I was blessed. I was blessed with wisdom. The wisdom of this experience of death was to live and not allow the grief to swallow me. Ron was already gone, but I had my life. And I had the wisdom to know that it would one day end as well, but not yet. And at that moment, I became deeply grateful for my life. At that moment, I surrendered to the now. I surrendered to be where I was and to the fact that I couldn't control the future. I surrendered to be where I was and to the hope that the future might bring happiness again. I had to. And slowly, a new me emerged. I realized that part of me had died with Ron, but the new me that was emerging was stronger and different in a good way. As crazy as it may sound, the loss and the grief provided me with an opportunity to be a new person, to become a new person who is sculpted by the experience of this loss and grief, but not controlled by it. And slowly, I felt at peace with finally letting Ron go. And amazing things started to happen after that. First, love finally found me. 3 years after Ron died, I was invited to a birthday party held on a Wednesday night. And I really didn't feel like going, but said to myself, Anna, Mr. Wright doesn't know where you live. And convinced myself to go. That night, I met Michael, who not only accepted me, but accepted the role of filling Ron's shoes as my husband. His heart was big enough, and I am so grateful to him. And it only got better from there. I became a mother to a baby boy, Philip. Through Philip's eyes, I was able to see the world in a new light and became radiant in love again. Michael and Philip were adopted by Ron's family, and together with our own families, we became the large family that I always dreamed of. And over time, I recognized that my career needed to incorporate my personal journey as well. And I started a law firm helping those going through the process of grieving loved ones and helping others plan for the inevitable loss that faces us all. I named the firm as a tribute to Ron, because without his life and death, I would not be here today. This is how happiness found me. But I still feel a sense of dread as summer turns to fall. October 25th is always a difficult day when I don't know what to do with myself and no one quite knows what to say. But I'm surrounded by proof that I made it through, and I have a new and amazing life that I could have never dreamed of. In the fog of grief, it never seemed possible, yet here I am. I remember when Philip was little, he would frequently ask me where he came from before he was born. And I remember telling him that he was a star that I would see at night and that I would wish upon. And I'd like to leave you with a parting thought. What if love never dies? What if that energy in all of us continues long after we're gone? What if that light in all of us migrates into the stars to light the way for us to be stars, right here, right now? Wouldn't that be amazing? Thank you.